All right, today we're gabbing with Kaya Wilson, co-host and co-creator of Bravo Wild Black, the podcast and the Instagram account. Kaya is here today to help me break down season 9 of the Real Housewives of Potomac, which just wrapped. I've been meaning to have Kaya on for quite some time now, and I'm happy that we're finally making it work. Kaya, thank you for doing this. How are you?
How are you is the question, honey. I feel like we've seen each other oh no, that was years ago now. It's been
What,
too long,
Miami?
but I am so good. It's good to see you. It's good to finally be on Gavin. And also, welcome to Her That. Like now we're on
Thank
the
you.
same
Yeah, we're on the same
network.
network. I know,
So
I'm really excited about
we're
that.
so interconnected. But
I
yeah,
know,
I'm good.
and I feel like for the past, it's been like a long time coming for this to actually be official. And so like I knew in the back of my mind that I actually wanted the fellow like Herd App people to come on once that happened. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like you guys,
it
Christian, like
makes
some of
more
the other,
sense.
exactly. So I'm glad this felt like the perfect time to do that. Uh, um, so obviously we're coming off of this season of Potomac, which like I have my thoughts on. The reunion felt like a totally different vibe than the season. What are your sort of top line feelings about season 9 of Potomac?
It wasn't the best season. I think it was a strong start, slow middle, and then it picked back up literally at the finale. And I
Right.
felt like at the finale, that's when I was like, oh, we have a turn here because all of a sudden we're hearing about the whole thing with, Stacy, Wendy, and
Karen.
Karen. And then, of course, that horrible dog show where the dogs got scared and started pooping everywhere. And it was just hilarious, like not classic Potomac, but classic chaotic housewives
Totally.
event. So I'm like, oh, we are so back. And then when Andy was like, you're going to be surprised by the reunion. And I'm like, there's no
He
way
always
that we
says
can
that.
be, yeah,
Right.
there was no, and then there's no way because we already know what happens. But then the reunion came and part one was so good.
I
I was
know.
like, now I'm seated. Part two was even better. And then part three comes, and you think it's going to be all about Karen. And little did we know it actually wasn't.
Right. No, I feel like it was the rare reunion where like it actually got better with each part, whereas like sometimes part 2 can be sort of like the forgettable, like sort of filler
Yeah.
between. No, like it got better every single time. And I agree, it was frustrating because it did start strong. It felt like, okay, we have these three to four, if you count Vivian, like 3 to 4 new women who were like in the mix. They feel promising. It's a whole group of new blood. And then it just sort of petered out, and then the Mia stuff just kind of took center stage for so long, and then it was missing what you just said, which is the Stacy, Wendy, Karen thing, which was like interpersonal drama in this group. Like
Right.
there like wasn't that much of that this season, I feel like. And like it came once it came, it was like so needed, but it just came too late. I wish it had come like during the trip or something at least. You know what I mean?
Right. So we can really dig into that
Yeah.
because we had this whole time. And I'm thinking that not only does Karen love Wendy, but she also loves Stacy. And then Stacy, like what they say in like wrestling terms, turned heel and was like, actually, Karen doesn't like you. She warned me about you. And
Hmm.
this is what she said. And then, of course, we have TJ is just
Yeah, we'll get
being
into TJ.
TJ.
Yeah, we'll get
Yeah, of
into TJ.
course. Yeah,
But
that's a
yeah, it's
whole
sort of
nother
I just
thing.
feel like yeah, Stacy sort of stepped up to the plate late in the game, but she stepped up
Right.
to the plate regardless. You know what I mean? And like we
Right.
needed that. We needed that moment.
Because we were loving. Okay, I can't speak for you. Let me know if you agree. I was loving Stacey all season because she was just this delusional black Barbie doll. And I
Yes.
know that some people hate that she has her QVC voice on all the time and that she's kind of like a little bit prim and proper. But I was living for that all season because I'm like, okay, we have this new person. She's a QVC person. She's going through a divorce, but she's calling this guy her best friend who won't hook up with her. Now we
Uh-huh.
know why.
Yeah.
And we're seeing them interact. And also, just at the beginning, when Gizelle and Ashley had, I think, was it Jazzy that called it the Gangsters and Alcohol event? She was just so offended by
Yeah.
what happened then. And I really think this whole season, I had my eye on Stacy, and then for her to not only just be the interesting one, at least the newer one, the interesting one to watch this season, she then brings up this thing, which we could have used earlier, but she also carried through to the reunion. And it's just so, it was so good to watch. I do think that a lot of the middle part was just boring. And
Yeah.
I am a Grand Dame stan, so it's hard to see
Yeah.
Karen,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
happened
and
with
one time that,
Karen.
and I'm with you. I'm like Karen has historically been one of my favorite housewives ever. But I agree with Stacy that it's sort of like I actually the QVC thing, like one, it makes sense to me because that's how she was on TV before, but also two, like I kind of like that there's sort of this artifice and like it's clearly not the fully real her. And there's like, I feel like over time we'll chip away at that.
Yeah.
It's almost like how like Paris Hilton has her like, her persona, and then like you'll
Mhm.
see it sort of dip down when she speaks in her low voice. It's sort of like I feel
Right.
like Stacey has that kind of similar duality to her.
Yeah, and I know that they are definitely going to bring that out of her the
Yeah,
next
they'll
season.
force it out of her. Exactly. So going back to the beginning, coming into this season, we had lost Robin, Candace, and NECA. So we had lost three people of sort of various tenures on the show.
Right.
Did you miss them? How did you feel about losing those three?
Okay, with Robin, I think that it was good to have Robin not there because we've got to see Gizelle by herself. And that's
Yes.
what we've been wanting to see because even on Girls Trip, we really didn't get to
No.
see Giselle, solo. NECA, I don't even remember. Like, I think she's pregnant, so congratulations to her. So I
Yes.
don't remember her.
Congrats. Yeah. Wish her
Didn't
all the
miss her.
best. Yes.
Exactly. And then with Candace, I think that it's better that we didn't see Candace because she needed to have a peaceful pregnancy and like she would just be over these ladies. So I think that even though we were missing Candace in a way, um, we still got through the season pretty well.
Yeah. And I agree that like we needed Giselle without Robin. We needed her to sort
Right.
of prove that she like we knew she had it in her obviously, but we needed to see that without sort of the inherent backup. And I also think that like Candace and Giselle could not coexist on the show for any longer, and ultimately Giselle is more intrinsic to the DNA of Potomac at this point in its life
Right.
cycle. And like I agree. Candace needed to like go have her baby
Be
away from the
happy.
cameras, be happy again, and then I'm sure she will come back at some point in the future. Like I'm like more sure of that than like almost anybody else. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
she's made
anyone.
for this in so many ways, but it just like had gotten to a point where one of them had to step down, and like I don't think it made sense for Giselle to be doing that at this point. You know?
Oh, it absolutely doesn't make sense for Giselle to step down because I think that not only, like, obviously, people like to call her the producer, which in some ways, she is.
Right.
But we kind of need
Yeah,
that.
the show
Uh,
benefits from that, I
yeah,
think.
the show benefits from that. And then we also need to see her without Robin and Candace. Like they were trying to come after her husband,
Yeah.
and Candace is the kind of person that will literally like stop the cameras, dead ass. Like we're not talking about my husband, so
Yeah.
it's not going to be a thing. And then now that she's pregnant, it would have been like that
Even
times
more of
10.
that. So
And
true.
she also wants, she has her singing career, which she's very serious about. So I'm like, you know what? She can go. She can take a break, and she'll be good.
Yeah, and she'll be back too. She'll be good and she'll be
Yeah.
back. So the big storylines going into the season: Karen with the DUI, and Mia with everything involving G and Ink and the paternity of her son and all of that. But only one of them really played ball with the big storyline. Obviously, like, we know that Karen kind of stonewalled for the DUI conversation. She said that it was a legal matter and it was still ongoing, which it technically was. Like
It
that technically
was.
was true. Whether that was a wise idea for her to make it a prolonged legal thing, that's another question. But I guess like even that, I did kind of expect her to be pushed a little bit more. Mia pushed a lot, Jacqueline pushed some, but Ashley, I guess, pushed a little bit. But like, I almost expected more out of her in that regard, just because I expected the women to push her to be that way. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what did you make of what we ultimately got in the Karen DUI situation?
I think she handled it very grand damely, though.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So, I think it's tricky, right? Especially because we're seeing now how serious it was. Karen, she might not have known how she acted that night. She might have blacked out, but she knew when we didn't know,
Hmm.
and some of them might not have knew that this was her fourth DUI.
Yes.
So she probably by any means needed to stop any conversation going on about it, but to do it so brazenly and to be so brash about it, that was a terrible idea. And I think that they did push her, you know.
Yeah,
Ashley did the shade, of course. Gizelle took her to the actual, they were at Telly Ho's talking about it.
that's true.
You
The Uber
know,
gift
like
cards from Ashley. Yeah.
exactly. Mia and Jacqueline brought it up during the trip. It was brought up throughout the
Yeah.
season.
You're right.
It,
I guess maybe I expected her to like, I don't know. We just got like literally nothing about it. You know what I mean? Like we literally got no
yeah.
details from her. Maybe I just expected like something to trickle out from her or whatever. But um, yeah, I guess. And then we have Mia's storyline, which I found like I didn't find it was very enjoyable to watch. I found it kind of hard to follow with all the stuff sort of happening on and off the show and that all contradicting each other and the timeline. Like it just felt like kind of like convoluted and confusing. Um, and I think to a lot of us and to the women, clearly, as we saw in the reunion, it felt like a big ruse. You know, especially after learning on the reunion or being reminded, I can't remember what we knew or not, that
Mhm.
that he was a conceived via IVF, which meant that like it was definitely G's sperm, and it was also they would have done a pregnancy blood test on her to know if she was already pregnant by having sex with G or sex with Ink before getting inseminated via IVF. Like that's layered, but like ultimately Ashley was like at the reunion, no, you would have known if you were already pregnant with somebody else's child when you were having IVF. So like all of that,
Exactly.
knowing all of that, it's just like, what are we doing here with the
Made
Mia
it
stuff?
worse.
Yeah.
It made it so much worse because it was already okay. I will say, I'm not gonna lie. At the beginning, everyone was complaining about it from the get go, and
Okay.
I'll be the first person to
Yeah, keep
say
it 100. Yeah.
y'all were right. Y'all were right. But I at the
Were you
beginning
eating it
I felt
up?
like I liked it
What did you
because
like about it?
I liked that she was just like, yeah, I have my baby daddy, I have my husband, I have my girlfriend. We're a big happy family. But we saw G snap on her and say that they are, in fact, not a big happy family. I thought that that was just like the extent of it. But I didn't think that we would have, I think it was more towards the middle slash end when we found out that he had taken his own paternity test. Um, that was when it was really crazy. And then also when like Gizelle said, when she pointed to Ashley when she was a boy and they were at the drag event. Like I think that was when I was just like, and then she was just like, it's no one's business. That was when I was like, okay, this is
No,
no longer the
no.
show that I know and love, and this is no longer funny or anything because you know what she's trying to explain, and I get to a certain extent, is that we see it a lot when people have mental health issues and they are manic. They will act and say and do one thing. Like I've experienced that firsthand. But at the same time, you could be someone who is triggering him to act this way,
Right.
gaslighting him. We see that on camera. So it's like this is a delicate situation, and not to mention that you purposely say, you know, my children's fathers, and then she's like, oh well, my oldest has a different father. So
Ugh.
it's like you're taking us on so many different rides, wording things differently, trying to blame things on a man who's going through, you know, mental health issues that he is now just dealing with at his older age, which makes it way harder to deal
Mm-hmm.
with.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it just became a different thing. And then, like you said on the reunion, when we found out, well, we didn't find that out because I think
I think we
she
knew
did
that.
mention it
Yeah, but we were
one,
reminded
but
of
we
it.
forgot. We
And
forgot.
also
I
we
completely
reminded of
forgot.
the literal mechanics of how that works, which is like
Right.
it's there is no doubt about where it's
You
coming
know
from.
exactly where who's, and to put your child through that on national TV, that was just like demented.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree about the mental health stuff with G. And I felt that like it was hard to tell when she would bring that up, like he was going through these episodes or whatever. It was hard to tell if she was being really genuine about like the fact that in that moment it was a hard moment for her, or if she was using it as an excuse to like make him look bad, basically. Like
Right,
it felt like it was coming up sort of at convenient moments, you know what I mean?
right,
And like in terms of her bringing it up, and
right.
like I think back to that scene this season where it's her and Ink, and G walks in. He had previously told her, "I don't want to film with Ink. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to film with him." And they basically activate him, and they get him to sort of lose his shit a little bit, and then he leaves. And the kids are in the other room, and I think that whole scene was concocted by them because they knew that they could get him to lose his shit. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
so after, especially after that, when she would bring up like his, his quote unquote manic episodes, it was hard for me to trust the narrator or the messenger of that. You know what I mean?
She's an unreliable
The
narrator. But
most.
I think what happened though is that it didn't go the way that she
Right.
expected it to go,
And that's what
because
Wendy said
we
on the
saw
reunion.
that
Yeah,
and we were like, hey, no, this is not him being manic. Even if it is him being manic and he's lying, you are saying things that could trigger anyone. This
totally.
man just told you. Okay, allegedly he told her off camera, but he told you on camera that he does not want to film with you three. So even if he is hanging out with you guys off camera, he can say whatever the hell he wants to say on camera because he told you he didn't want to do this. So if
Right.
he's showing his behind, then you deserve it because you knew what the boundaries were. You poked at it, and now you want to. Oh my God. What really pissed me off was when at the end of it, and then, he brought up that she had a trigger warning, like she had an abortion from Ink while I guess they were married or whatever. But then she goes to the event, and that's when I was like, no. She goes to the event and she's like, Ink, I mean, Gordon told Ink that I had an abortion, and then Ink was acting like he didn't know, and we could tell that Ink absolutely did know because Mia even looked at him like he didn't know. It was just like so messy that
So
I was like,
messy and so
okay,
dark.
no, yeah,
Yeah. It's like this is not the kind of
this
stuff that I
is
want to be like, deciding whether you're telling the truth. Like I don't like this is not the kind of stuff that we want to really be like, I don't know, like very like you I don't
it
know. It
wasn't
just feels
fun
icky.
because we
No.
went from
Yeah.
Potomac being the prim and proper franchise. It was about manners. It was about
And
fighting about
Cherry.
champagne rooms. It was about who's the grand dame. And I understand that we kind of moved away from that when we got some younger people on. Monique came on, Candace came on. They really got it popping. And yes, there were some incidents
Yeah.
that happened that kind of moved it, but it wasn't this.
No, it
Whatever
wasn't.
this was, it was not okay.
Right. Right. And I think that, and as I said, Wendy sort of backed up your theory on the reunion when she was like, I think this was all a plan and it blew up in your face. It didn't go the way you wanted it to go. And then on the reunion, when, they talk all about it and they all sort of, they are all sort of, they're going against her because none of them are buying what she's selling.
Right.
And then when it comes to the moment where she has to be held accountable of what she said about Giselle's daughters, which is like apparent, like with the whole thing about them sneaking the boys in, and apparently she said worse things about them that was cut out of the
Yep.
show. And once Giselle brings that up, and basically is like, "What do you have to say for yourself?" Like, I would never do that. What you did to your kids as a mother. Mia storms out and never comes back because she can't. She can dish it, but she can't really take it. She creates this mess and she can't clean it up. You know.
Yeah, what I thought was crazy was that she came into this reunion already crying,
Yeah.
spinning out. Like she thought that was going to get her, her little apology to Stacy and Jazzy.
Yeah.
Who, listen, I live in South Florida, so let's just say I had to go to. If I had to go to another state to celebrate your birthday and you ditch me, I'm beating your ass. I'm sorry.
And I'm
Like,
bringing it up on TV.
I'm bringing it up. Like everyone needs to know because they didn't show this, and this is very important to the plot.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
absolutely does all these things on and off camera. And she just is like, well, this is my life. No, you don't then turn around and start crying. And when people don't want to accept your apology, oh, maybe if I'm crying, they won't go as hard on me. This is a reunion. You have to answer for what you did. You have to
Uh-huh.
answer for what Ink did because Ink has left you high and dry. You have to answer for all the questions that the audience have and the
Which is a
questions
lot.
that the ladies have.
Hmm.
And for her to come in that crying and boo-hooing already, thinking that they were going to go soft on her, Gizelle didn't even really get to get into that ass the way that
No,
she
no, she
wanted to.
didn't. No, no, she was winding up.
Right. She
And
was
then
just
there,
she
and then
was
and then
just
and then
starting
the,
like
and the
the
target went away. You know what I
right.
mean? Like that's very much unresolved. And yeah, I'm curious if you think if we'll see her again. Do you think that Mia is back? Do you want to see her back? Like, what are your thoughts on sort of, because it's very open-ended with her right now.
I I feel like I don't know if I genuinely do not know if I want to
Right.
see her back, especially if we're going to get what she gave us this season. If she comes back, no ink, leave Gordon alone, and tell the truth.
Right.
Will we see her back? I think she will be asked back because Karen is gone. A lot of people that I
Right.
thought that weren't going to
That
be
changes the game.
back when
Yeah.
Karen got those, when
Yeah.
Karen got that sentence,
I
a lot of
know.
people got a
I
contract that they wouldn't
have
get. And
gotten necessarily.
on top of that, I know that she owns a couple of joint clinics or chiropractic clinics or whatever, but she needs the money, the
Yeah,
appearances, the
definitely.
Fashion Nova sponsorship. So she's not in the position to turn that down.
No, I know, but I just don't know if like I think she's turned off a lot of most of the
Viewers.
cast, if not all of them, a lot of the viewers, and probably some in production because she wasn't telling the truth. Like to me, I always think about like if you're really kind of pulling a fast one on like everybody, that is really what comes back to bite you. You know what I mean? It's one thing if you're like lying to the ladies, but like in the confessionals, you're kind of like being more
Mm-hmm.
truthful. She was kind of pulling the blanket over everybody's eyes. And yeah, I mean, for me, I would actually like to see her sort of like either demoted to a friend
Yeah.
or like just really just be there for like interpersonal stuff, kind of nothing about her life, to be honest, because I can't trust it. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
Jacqueline there. It's kind of like
Oh,
she takes,
Jacqueline
yeah,
needs to
and
go.
we'll get to them, but like if
Please.
you take her out of the equation, it's sort of like taking Robin out of the equation for Gizelle. Like you can't have that built-in backup. Like so I don't know. I'm similarly iffy on her, but I agree that Karen's exit probably impacted sort of what was going to happen with her. So we're going to end with Karen and the Stacy stuff of the reunion. So we've talked about who left. I want to talk a little bit about who we got because we talked about how promising it was at the beginning. We got Jazzy and Jacqueline. So Jacqueline we had seen before, obviously. They're both friends of I don't need Jacqueline back. I felt like at the reunion she was like teasing the baby daddy as a way to like try to like dangle a carrot for
She's
another
like,
season,
stay tuned.
but
And
like
production
nobody
was like,
cares.
why
Yeah.
are you still on this couch? Bye. Like, how did you get here
Right.
this long?
And even if to give her some credit, she was vindicated in some ways when it comes to
Mhm.
Karen. You know, she really kind of was. I don't think that she has what it takes to be even a friend of. Like it just doesn't feel like it's her thing.
Right, because it's also not like she broke any of the Karen news. Like they've been trying to tell
No.
us that Karen been drinking every day, and
Right.
we've just been ignoring it. Some people weren't ignoring it, but me personally, I've been ignoring it because I'm like, well, okay, she's good
Same.
TV. That's the grind down.
Yeah, totally. So then, but I remain sort of intrigued by Jassy, even though like I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
she started strong and then they started bringing up the stuff about her sort of like being a side chick, towards the beginning of her relationship. And I feel like that is sort of when she backed away a little bit. Like I don't know if she couldn't handle the heat or they backed away from her. I don't really know I don't know if you know anything, but like, I don't really know what happened with Jazzy. She sort of was still drifting around, but like didn't really do much for the rest of the season. And then on the
She wasn't on the
reunion,
trip, right?
no,
She wasn't
She
on
wasn't on the trip for some reason, but then
right.
she showed up to the drag event when Ashley was a man. She showed up, and then she was like, not. She said hi, and then like that's literally it. That's all we saw. And so I'm just confused what happened. But I feel like from the beginning of the season and the reunion, I'm like, there's still, I feel like there's
Something there,
something
right?
there, right?
Yeah. I want Jazzy back 100%. I
Okay.
want her. I want her, maybe not full time, but I want her back as a friend. And I want them to show more of the home life because we also didn't get what I wanted from Kiarna. Um, we'll maybe
Yeah,
get
we'll get
into
to her.
that
Yeah,
later.
we'll be next. Yeah.
But so I want more of Jazzy. I want to know more about the husband,
Yeah, the
the
husband.
children,
Yeah.
yeah, the children, what happened in between that, and also this whole thing with Mia. If Mia comes back,
Yeah, the
like
Miami
she
trip.
was,
Let's talk
yeah,
about
the Miami
Miami.
trip, and it seems like that she has, like a newfound ally in Stacy because it was her and Stacy who went down there, and
So
now
true.
the other ladies are going to be on Stacy's behind, so she's going to need
So
someone,
Jazzy could be her backup.
right? Because
Oh, that's a good point.
she doesn't have Vivian. Clearly, she doesn't have Karen. She doesn't really have, especially after what we find out on the reunion.
Right. So then Kay, let's talk about Kay. So I recently got so I feel like a lot of people suspected this and maybe we knew this, but I got confirmation that Kay filmed as a friend, like completely filmed as a friend.
That makes sense.
And a lot of her most of her scenes were pickup scenes. So they were filmed after the fact. And so what that means to me is that like she wasn't empowered to film as a full-time person during the season. And that does change how you what you bring, I do think. And like I also think when it comes to her and Greg's scenes together and sort of his comfortability around the cameras, he had less time to show any sort of growth in that regard. You know what I mean? Like if their scenes were all filmed in a couple weeks, probably like that's not that
Mm-hmm.
much time to like really get comfortable with that, right? And so like I know that a lot of people are like Kay didn't make any impact or whatever, but there's something about her to me that like she cracks me up kind of. And like when she chimes in and like I like her confessionals.
Coming in hot.
There's just something about her that I really am drawn to and I can't really put it into words. So I would like to see her back, but I want to know
Yeah.
how you reacted to her on this season.
I wouldn't mind seeing her back, but if she's going to be full time, then she's got just her husband or fiance or whatever he's supposed to. Like,
Yeah.
did he never proposed? Did he?
I don't think so. I think
Because
they're still
she
just
said
dating.
specifically in February, and now we're in March, and I
Uh-huh.
don't think that I've seen anything that said that he proposed.
Right.
And on the reunion, she said that she moved back in her house, or was that at the
Yeah,
end of the
she
finale?
said that she was investing in another property.
Right.
And it was
So
unclear if she was going to live there full time or not, but she was definitely buying other place, she said.
right. So if we can't get whoever she's dating on board, I don't want to see her as
Okay.
full time. But I still do think that she definitely has some potential. And I think that when Karen comes back, Kiarna, because she messed it up with Wendy.
Yeah.
Gizelle is her friend. Ashley is Karen's friend also, but I think that Kiarna might be the one who will.
Yeah, I also
kind of
feel like
usher.
it's rare for all the OGs to like a new edition, and I feel like they all like Kay. You know what I mean? Which also
Yeah.
makes me like, okay, like keep her around. I guess she could be a friend, which I would be totally happy with. There's something about her. And then there's Stacy, who I find her to be one of the best finds for casting of housewives in the
Love
last
her.
couple years. Like to me, she's up there with Bronwyn on Salt Lake. She's up there with Bose on Beverly Hills. She's up there with Jen Pedranti on OC as like just like a solid addition that you could see being around for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
like there'll be a journey there. And she's a total enigma. She hasn't like totally washed herself of the QVC voice. There's obviously the unusual relationship with TJ. So obviously you said during the season you were on board already with her.
From her, like just her entrance, I'm just like,
Yeah.
who is
There's
she?
something. She's a star. Yeah.
Yes, like a star is born.
Yeah.
She's just, I just love, obviously, I think that housewives is obviously a loose term. Like a lot of the housewives are no longer married. This is just like women.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
that.
Real women.
Exactly, real women. So she's going through her own thing. I like that, at first she was getting close to Ashley. Ashley spilled her business and she was like, what the hell? And then she was
And
just
put her
like,
bunions on the counter.
your bunions on the counter. And I'm like, she she has personality.
She does.
She also might have rented a boyfriend, but I would like to see how she handles this going into the new season.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter, what she did. It's how you kind of like come back.
Yeah.
And I
It's how you
feel like,
respond. Yeah.
yeah, it's how you respond. And I'm like, in the finale, especially, I'm like, okay, we've gotten away from the QVC Stacy. We're seeing Stacy. Like,
Stay
what was
safe.
that? What was that? What did Karen say? What happened? And then the whole she didn't want anyone to wear her dress kind of
Uh-huh.
thing.
The
Like,
dress
we're
stuff.
seeing, is she a
Yeah.
monster? And I want to see it like
No, I
grow.
know, totally. And I want to chip away at it. I want to pull back the layers. Like there's just like so much there to unpack. And like we unpacked a lot of like her marriage stuff and with her kid and sort of all that, which was I think interesting. But like
Yeah.
we didn't really unpack her as a person as much, which it will be good. It just will be.
Yeah, it will be. That she was able to have that conversation with Ashley too on race because she's black,
Yeah.
Ashley's half black. They are raising mixed race children, and how they talked about that. They were both going through a divorce. They're finally both divorced. I want to see how her ex-husband reacts to her and her daughter being on camera. Is her daughter going to be able to be on camera in the
Right.
film?
Right.
Now that we're not going to have TJ around, what is she going to do? Because that was a part of her storyline
Hmm.
that she let us in on. We talked about like how she only drives, I think is at the month of May because she lost. That was very
Right.
niche
I
and
forgot
it
about
was
that.
sad, but it was very
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah, it was very
She doesn't,
specific.
yeah, it was very specific. And like, I'm like, okay, that's just interesting. Like, there's just so many different things, so many angles, so many possible storylines. And also, we have to see, especially when Wendy said, if you come back around these group of women, you're going to have to answer for what is happening here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, third part of the reunion. Actually end of part two, Wendy gets the text from Eddie.
Ooh,
Eddie's getting the tea from TJ with Greg on FaceTime, who says, "Fuck that show. Stacy's been paying me to be on it. She owes me money still. She owes like she was paying me and she hasn't paid me in full. The invoice is still, open ended." And then at first, I just found it so interesting because at first Stacy deflected and she was like, "I don't believe he would say that. Is
that's when
Eddie
she started embarrassing me.
is Eddie lying?" And then she's like, "I don't know why TJ would say that." And then, but the whole time she's like pretty unflustered. You know what I mean? She's very much just like sitting there,
She's
and
just
she's
like,
like,
no, no
"No,
way.
I don't believe he would say that." Whatever.
There's a
Then
miscommunication.
right, then we get the footage and we see that he did indeed say that. And the other women are completely not buying it. Like they're completely believing TJ. She's like not backing down at all. Still she'll rise,
Yes,
quoting
still
Maya
I
Angelou.
rise. Amen.
What do you think?
I I love her. And
Yep.
I love her, but I'm gonna have to believe.
Okay.
I don't fully believe TJ, right? But there is something there. Maybe
Yeah.
she's not like paying him directly like a check on time to pretend to be her boyfriend, but there had to be some kind of an arrangement because
It's
we
like
see throughout the entire season, we see something is going on, something is wrong. Something in the milk ain't clean, as Phaedra would say.
yeah, it's like it was suspicious all season,
Right.
but she's so confident that there's no proof that she was paying him. You know what I mean? Like, and
Hmm.
he hasn't brought out any receipts. Like,
He hasn't brought out any receipts, but I will have y'all listen. The Gabbers, what's your fan base called?
we're still figuring it out.
The Gabbers.
Okay.
Okay. I will have you know that TJ wants his story out there. He says that he has proof and receipts. He wants the people to know that he is not lying and that Stacy wanted him to go to Watch What Happens Live, but he did not want to go. Allegedly. That's what the streets are
But
saying.
which I would believe, but I feel like he's playing in our face. You know what I mean? Like
Just drop the receipts.
you have the receipts, just drop the fucking receipts. Like if you're, I don't know if you're waiting for like the perfect podcast to go on or like trying to sell it to People Magazine, like just drop it. You know what I mean?
I think that
take the new followers.
the problem is like we don't give a fuck. Like I want to hear it from Stacy's part. Like, okay, you accused her, but now I want to see what Stacy is going to say.
But
You are
imagine
not
if
a
the season.
housewife.
But imagine, Kaya, if the season opens and it's like Gizelle and Ashley like being like, "Well, TJ dropped the receipts,"
Exactly.
and the first event they like kind of bombard her with that. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty compelling in
That would
terms of
eat.
a premiere episode where we get her reaction to the TJ receipts. Like that's pretty damn good,
That would eat. That
right?
would eat. I just think that she kind of embarrassed me because she did not believe Eddie. And I'm like, why would Eddie of all
Right. Why would
people
he lie? Like also at the 11th
lie
hour like this. It's so random.
about this? Like it didn't make any sense. Then she was like saying, I don't know him to be a liar. I'm like, please. And then she sees it and she's like, what did he say? And then
Right.
Andy is like, let her listen to it again. She saw it a second time. And then she's like, well, and I thought the same thing that Andy said. I thought that she was going to say, well, you guys are trying to tell me all season that something was wrong with him. And now I know that he's like spewing this bullshit. But instead, she goes the opposite way. And she's just like, well, all season you've been trying to tell me something's wrong with him, but now you believe him. And I'm like, you are making this.
Okay, wait. Is that not a valid point though? Because I don't really know if I don't fully believe her. But is it not a valid point that they've been saying he's been full of shit all season, and then now they really want to believe her? And I guess that in their minds, it's like, okay, that explains everything. And I kind of feel like if you're one of the other women, like seeing how quickly they were believing his story and his claim,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me think that like they have kind of a collective.
They want it to be true. They want Stacy to
I think
have
they want it
something
to be
wrong with
true, but I
her.
also think that like from what they've seen as people who have filmed with her for several months at that point, they've seen some like a lack of authenticity, or like we're not buying what you're selling completely, or maybe there's some stuff behind the scenes that like have hinted toward like there. I feel like they were quick to believe it, and they've been sort of criticized for that online, but like they know more than we do. You know, in terms of how
Right.
Stacy is in these environments, and so like and how
Right.
TJ is, and so I don't know.
The crazy part about this is that Stacy went to Kempire. Shout out to Kempire.
Okay.
Kempire had a show. Stacy showed up at Kempire's show. This is the first time that I heard of what's going to come out on part 3, and that was that TJ was going to be bringing like saying that he was being paid, and she told Kempire that it wasn't true. So I don't know. I think that there's more to
She said it
say.
wasn't true that that was what comes out,
She said I
or it
forgot
wasn't
what
true
it
that she paid
was.
him.
I think it wasn't true that I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I just know that she just denied this whole thing, and Kim Pyre was like, she came to my show and she lied to me. So
Okay.
I
So
think
then,
she might have, lied about something there. So
which,
something else was going on.
yeah.
And I think that I see what you mean. Like they were so quick to believe TJ just to like finally get her in a gotcha moment. But at the same time, she should have took that moment
Yeah,
and
I agree.
kind of been like, well, you guys are trying to tell me something was wrong this whole time. And this is what it is. Like he's lying on me. But she kept defending it to the end.
No, she
And
didn't handle it well at all. No.
she did, yeah. And I'm like, I get it. But that's what makes me want to see more of her.
Totally
Because
agree.
she's just like a phoenix from the ashes. Still she
Absolutely.
rises.
Still she rises, baby. And it's interesting because I did a poll on Twitter and a poll on Threads, and about, do you believe TJ that Stacy paid
What
him
they
to be her
said.
boyfriend on the show? They both pretty much have the same percentages in terms of the results of the polls. They both were at 70% don't believe him, and 30%
Oh,
and 30% do. Yeah,
oh,
both of the
I'm in
polls.
the minority.
And my instant reaction because I watched it twice, and the first time I was like 100% I believe him, that was my instinct to believe to, but I think now that I've seen the audience reaction, I'm a little bit more iffy on it. But I do think that
Hmm.
there's something there, and there's a couple of people who replied on Twitter who like had kind of interesting points. So like one person said, Sam Herp said, my take is that TJ saying she owes him money is more of a I gave her a storyline and she should pay me for that more than like she paid me to be on the
Oh,
show for her. Somebody else thinks it was an arrangement of like, can you come on the show and promote XYZ because they met on QVC. Some people say that he thinks that he just wants that they think he wants to just be compensated for appearing on the show as her boyfriend, whether he was hired to be that or not. Like I think there is room for gray area in what he's saying, where it's not like, as you said, it's not like she was like cash apping him
yeah,
money.
like literally, like
Right.
the cash app himself to be her boyfriend per se.
Right.
But I just want to know that, like, even if there was an arrangement in general, whatever it was, like, where was it? I don't even know how to phrase this. He did a terrible job at whatever
Right.
she was paying him to
He
do.
really did. Yeah. Yeah. The survey of how satisfied she would be with the services would be
Right.
1 star. You weren't
Because
convincing. You're a bad actor.
if she was paying him, then
And he got her
why is
money's
the
worth.
whole audience? We're not buying this for, like,
No, exactly.
denial is a river. Like, it was just too much. And then for him to also, well, he didn't say that on the recording, but Eddie was saying, oh, it was painting him out to be flamboyant. I'm like, baby.
Silence. Yeah.
Baby. But
Yeah.
that's not the point. The point is
No.
that if you are being paid to be on the show and to act like her boyfriend or whatever, you were supposed to be her best friend. You did not even act like a best friend.
No. I mean, at Wendy's birthday party, he was like talking to her really demeaningly, and it was like ridiculous. So yeah, I wouldn't tip him for his services. So like, good for Stacy for denying it, I guess. Now I'm back
Yeah,
to
like,
like
if she missed her payments, it was because she probably saw those
she wasn't.
episodes
Uh-huh.
and she was like, actually,
This is
I'm
some
not paying
bullshit.
for this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, so Kaya, the reunion overall, I feel like the reunion overall was one of the best in years, pretty much for like any franchise. In terms of like my level of enjoyment watching it, like I was laughing the entire time. There was some good tea spilled kind of throughout. They were verbally sparring in a way that like you don't really see on any other franchise right now,
Yep.
honestly. It was like and when you know it's good is that like this season deserved a two-parter. It did not deserve a three-parter, but because of what they delivered in the reunion, they got three
Right.
parts.
Yeah. And I will say, like, Salt Lake City, every single episode, there wasn't a single episode of Salt Lake City that I didn't watch at least twice.
Right.
But when it came to that reunion, it wasn't giving me like it, and it's okay because they delivered on
It's because the season was
the
so high.
season,
Right,
right?
sure.
And then right here we have the opposite. The season wasn't all that, but the reunion was amazing. I will say it's the second best Potomac reunion. The first best being the binder for me. Like,
Oh yeah, I mean that's
there's
iconic. That's
it
legendary.
cannot be topped. But this was the second best Potomac reunion, and it's very high up there in reunions, like
Yeah, it's really
between
good.
the Atlanta reunions, and it's really good. It
Yeah,
was just so good.
they proved their
Why they're
worth.
Potomac? Like, they can
Right, no,
have a
exactly.
season
And
off
this
and
is what I was
come
saying.
back.
It feels like Potomac in this reunion remembered what Potomac should feel like and what it should be like. And I think a big part of that for me was actually how Wendy was and how Gizelle was. And we know that they cleared the air going into the season. They had that lunch that we saw like 2 seconds of. We know it was like a much longer lunch that they talked, but don't have to get into that. I loved their banter at this reunion because it felt like they had landed in a place where Giselle has like more respect for Wendy than she had for a while. Wendy had no airs about her. I think Karen not being there was actually a really good thing for Wendy because I think she felt almost even more she stepped into her power more in this reunion, I would say. And they weren't pretending to like each other, but there were moments where they gave each other a little credit on the side.
They
You know what I
had the
mean? And
alley
like
oop, like
totally. And yeah,
especially
yeah, it
with
was there were
Mia.
1-2 punches. Like during the
Hmm.
Stacy thing, they were cracking each other up. Like there
Yep.
was something about where they landed where I was like, whoa, I didn't think that Giselle and Wendy could ever get to this point, and they did.
The most unexpected duo that we did not know that we needed. And it
Yes.
was great. They had Mia on the alley oop and they had Stacy like on the alley oop because she was like, because she's lying too. It was just so good. It was
Yeah.
so good. Also, I just think this season, Wendy was my MVP of the season, I have to say, because she just had, I mean, she annoyed me with her 77 birthdays, but you know what? She turned 40, so I understand. But she was really like, this is a housewife. Like
Yeah,
she
I agree with that.
had the home life, the marriage, like, you know, with the girls, having the trips, getting in other people's business. Like she really went there. And I'm just so proud of Wendy. I
Me
love
too.
her and Gizelle, but I do want to know what you think about the Karen scene.
That
What,
was cut.
yeah.
Yeah, because I still have big questions about that because obviously I would have loved to see it because it would have added color to where they stood, honestly, coming out of the season. But my one of my big questions is sort of like I don't know where that would have fit into the season because
Mhm.
the information that Stacy had about what Karen told her didn't come to
Mhm.
Wendy until the finale party. And so if she's filming
Yeah.
a scene with Karen one on one about that information, it would have to logically come after the finale party. But then would they end the season on this
It
like
could have just
weird.
been maybe like a flashback, I guess.
Yeah, 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 for sure. But it just I don't know where it would have fit, and I obviously would have loved to see it. But I recently DM'd a producer, and I was
Hmm.
not of Potomac, of just Housewives, and
Hmm.
I was like, while I have you, can I just ask you a question? What happens when a clip we see it in a trailer or a teaser and it doesn't make it into the season? And this person was like, we are so frustrated when that happens, but it's because we cut the trailers before the season's done, and so sometimes things just don't fit in, which makes total
Yeah.
sense. But I feel like when this happens, it's almost always something like
That's relevant to the story.
relevant or like we're not going to forget that. Like the really eagle-eyed super fans are not going to forget that we saw Wendy
Right.
Karen checking Karen, you know, and like because that's unexpected, and so yeah, I don't know
And then, okay,
why.
so then what do you think about the whole Karen and Ray after, you know, her talking about the DUI and everything?
Oh, the scene that looks like a Mariah Carey music
Hmm.
video where she's laying there on the
Yeah.
bed.
She's just laying down. I'm like,
Right.
what is she reading upside down?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I mean, I was with Giselle where we saw her in the little corner of the screen being like, turn this off. Like they're covering a lot of their bases in a 3 minute scene where it's like they're trying to dispel the blue eyes thing still, and it's like, why this isn't like
this
this
is
is
more
not. And
serious.
also, it's like this is not what the purpose of this is. This is like to like show us that you are getting it that in terms of your issues and what how you've been drinking and your DUI. Like this is not the purpose of this is not to like dispel other rumors that, you know, I guess there was the thing that Ashley brought up about like somebody might have been in the car with her, but like
Hmm.
it just didn't land. It didn't land. And Ray was
Do
like
you?
Ray was like really clunkily trying to get her there too. And like again,
Yeah.
I love Karen so much, but like that
Yeah.
it didn't land. It didn't land.
Okay, so when do we think? Because I feel like that scene where we saw her in the bed versus the scene that we saw at the beginning of the reunion, it was just two different,
She was in the same
like,
outfit.
oh, okay,
I think because we had the one where she was like really no makeup and she was
yeah,
crying in front
that
of the
one.
fireplace. And then the second one where she's like, I'm gonna come back as Karen, and that's where she talked about the antidepressants for the first time. I think that we had heard.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna come back as Grand Dame. I think she's wearing that same white outfit and she's really made up. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure that's the same day.
okay, because I just felt like that might have been like
I don't think she
after,
filmed.
but it
I don't think
couldn't
she filmed
have.
3 different times. I think she filmed twice.
Okay, that
That's
makes
my hunch
sense.
about it.
I wanted to know
Um,
because I'm like something.
Yeah. And I
It's
feel like, and
different
listen, it's
vibes.
like, again, I think the facade that Karen had up, we all sort of knew she had a facade up, obviously. Like that
Hmm.
was like part of her, sh- her quote unquote shtick, if you want to say that. Like that was
Right.
a sort of like I sort of love a sort of Delulu housewife, you know?
Yeah, she's the
But
oldest on the cast.
totally, and
She
like
is the
she's the
most
grand
respected.
dame, and she wants you to bow down at her feet, but she still has that the Kern in her, right? And like there's an argument to be made though that I think that Karen not being there at the reunion was like it kind of showed that in some ways she was holding some of them back because I think that like whether it was to like respect her quote unquote or like abide by the facade that she was holding up and it sort of like petered down to other people without her there and being the literal fence between them. I think she we all know she said she rides the fence. I think sometimes she was this literal like blockage sometimes, but I didn't realize until hindsight that maybe they needed to take Karen out of the equation for like Wendy and Gizelle to really get there, for Wendy and Ashley to really spar like that they did on the reunion. Like, I don't know.
Mm.
I think the reunion was really great, and I would have doubted a reunion being this good without Karen being there, and I was surprised.
If she was there,
It would have been dark.
it would have been too like it wouldn't have been
Yeah,
because we know what happens now because the third part we're watching her and she's actually like literally in a cell right now, and I'm like,
crazy.
that's insane. But she wasn't there. So it also, I think also they would have spent more time trying to like, oh, get Karen because of what we found out. And we
Yeah,
really wouldn't have gotten to Mia the way that we needed to get to Mia. And we got Mia's ass.
right.
And we got Stacy too. So I think that she had to be absent in this reunion, but I do want her back on the show.
No, I want her back on the show, but I want her to come back in I've
As
made this
Karen.
connection before as Karen, but I also made this connection of to Countess Luann, where it's like they both were like these women who
Mm-hmm.
manners and prim and
High up,
proper and
yeah.
yeah and kind of condescending, and that was their thing. But then they had a huge moment that sort of brought them down to earth. And
Yeah.
Luann, as we all know, responded to that in a pretty iconic way. And she was looser and cooler and like,
Mm-hmm.
just more free with it because it was all put into perspective for her. I would love if Karen came back with a similar aura. You know what I mean? Like I think
Yeah.
that would be pretty cool and pretty great. And I think she will be back after her sentence. But we're gonna have a full season without her, which is kind of crazy
Yeah, for the first time.
for the first
And
time.
that I'm wondering, like, so ideally, this cast coming up, what would you say that they should do?
Yeah, I mean, as you said earlier, I think the Karen officially having to miss this season, at least, it changes everything, I think. Because in my mind, it was sort of like, okay, she goes to jail for like 3 months and like they start filming and then she comes halfway through. Like that was in my mind what was going to happen, right? Um, she'll be away for a full year. I think
I mean, she'll be out like 8 months or so, but the thing is,
she'll be
that's
back for
not
season
enough.
11. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
enough time for her to come back to the actual
Right.
season.
And
Yeah,
I guess like if you think about it, they could like have her show up at next reunion or something like that. They literally could do
that would
that.
be
Right.
iconic.
Um, I think you obviously bring back Wendy, Giselle. I think you bring back Ashley full time. I think you bring back Mia, whether that's a friend or not, is up to you. But either way, she has to have a stern talking to with producers, and you have to minimize her personal storyline. You just do. Like you have to really react to how everybody's taken that. I think obviously bring back Stacy full time. Kay, I want her back, whether it's a friend of her full time. I'll let them decide that.
Hmm.
And then the other thing that I think Jazzy is a friend, and
Hmm.
I actually think Kaya. I know she was on 2 episodes this season, but Vivian coming for Stacy over the dress thing, and some of the
Oh,
and the Instagram and the Instagram and the tweet that she did were like pretty damn
that
hard.
was good.
And I was
That
like,
was because we saw them,
You know
and
what?
that she
Start
has
the
a
season off.
natural
Totally
right.
start this. They go. The local Fox 5 News broadcast that I was watching to find out about Karen's sentence interviewed Vivian live on air as we were waiting, and she was like not holding back. And you know what? That's the kind of energy that I want to see in somebody on Housewives. So bring Vivian in as a tentative friend, see how the Stacy thing goes at the beginning of the season about the dress, and see if it's a 1 episode thing great. She can be a guest for one episode, and we'll call it a day. But if she shows a little promise as a friend of, I'll take it. Clearly, the women have known her for a long time, so she fits
That
naturally
is,
in.
yeah, she fits naturally. That's what I was just about to say. I have not heard that perspective yet, but I would be here for it.
Okay. Is there anything else you would do differently from what I said with the cast?
No, I think I want Jazzy back. I want Stacy. I want Gizelle. I want Ashley. I want, you know,
Wendy.
Wendy's for sure. And then I need Mia to answer for her crimes. So like
But I don't want a season.
I don't want to see it. Yeah.
I don't want the season to be
she did too much.
Crimes.
It was too much.
Yeah. But and then you add somebody new. Right?
Yeah, I think someone new, and it has to be someone who fits very well. And I don't think it should be, like another young person like Kiana or Jazzy. I think it needs to be someone who's very
more
established.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
A lot of people I don't think, because a lot of people are asking, do you think Robin should come back? No. I like seeing Gizelle without Robin. It's too soon. And some people were saying Charisse, but I feel that Charisse, when she did come back, it was the only thing that made her interesting was that she was pissed off Karen
stuff. I know. And I think some people would argue that Karen was holding her back and sort of blocking her from anything else. But I don't agree. I don't have anything against Charisse. I just don't
see it for her.
I agree. I'm with you on that. And I think that with Robin, I do think she's been so fun to see on Traders because she's not in that environment anymore.
Right.
But I think that like you have to give Gizelle and Wendy another season at least to really sink into this dynamic that we just talked about. Otherwise it will be fleeting, and I don't want it to be fleeting because it's really good. So it's like let them sink into it for a full season, and then you can potentially bring back a Robin or a Candace and see how they respond to that, because those are their besties. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so like that's where then it gets interesting again. But I think one season away is too little. One season away is too little.
Yeah, I did see Candace hanging around and partying with some of the people from Potomac, but I think that she should take another season. I think it was I don't know. It was I think it was one or two people from Potomac. She was out and about because she said that she wanted a ratchet night out because she's been a mom.
Yeah. Period.
So I'm like, interesting. But I don't know if this season coming up should be it. Maybe next season.
I want one more without Robin or Candace. That's what I would say. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was on my list to talk to you about. I mean, we obviously learned a lot of like little details about the Karen stuff. I don't really want to rehash the like sentencing of it all. Yeah. Like that's out there. I've done an episode about that. But it's just crazy to learn that like we did learn on the reunion that from Gizelle that she turned down a plea deal of 6 months house arrest and or 60 days in jail. And that's because, and that just to me points to either or both bad legal advice. We know she fired her. We know that she fired her lawyers after she was charged, but also just there was an arrogance there. There was a feeling that she was untouchable, and she wasn't.
But it's like, I mean, I think it's 100% bad legal advice. Obviously there was an arrogance there, but the thing is that if you are a lawyer and you see your client acting a damn fool,
right,
like that, there's no way that you take it to trial.
I know.
But it's also in the legal system.
DUI, like take the plea deal.
It's also like, I guess she felt, I got away with this 3 other times. Why wouldn't I get away with it a fourth?
Yeah. And this fourth time she had this like increased public platform and she's been built up, and I can't relate to, I don't know what that feels like to be in that position where you're gassed up probably everywhere you go, it's like, and that's not defending it, sort of just trying to understand like where her mind really was at. And
I don't know. I can't relate because as a Black woman, because I understand that she's famous, but as a Black woman in the legal system, we can get famous, but you are a Bravo celebrity. So like really you're like a C-lister.
Yeah, for sure.
So to be a Black woman and in the legal system and you've been skating and you've been getting away with it since 2006, I don't think that you should even feel that you're untouchable. You can never feel untouchable as a person of color in the system. So I can't relate to that.
No.
So she had to get that. But
Ooh,
yeah,
it's
that
just
reunion was so good.
oh, the reunion was so good. What's happening with Karen is so surreal, and it just ultimately though I think if you're talking about the show,
Hmm.
and we'll wrap up here, it's just sort of like it's hard not to land in a place of like feeling like this reunion has teed them up to just like it's teeing them up to have the season I thought they were going to have this season. At the beginning we
Right,
thought it was really promising. It took a little
right.
longer, but we're going to get there, and it feels like
Yeah,
season 10. That's pretty great
it's
timing.
gonna
Season 10 should be good for any show.
it's
So
gonna be good. I'm sorry, I believe in my girls. They got
yeah, me
this.
too. Oh, me too. Me too. They again they got back to what it feels like to watch Potomac, right? Like,
Right. It was so
I want to
good.
rewatch the reunion again. Like
Yeah,
that's how
it's
good it was.
uncensored on
Literally,
Peacock.
yeah, there we go. Well, Kaya, this has been so much fun. Sorry for taking a little bit more of your time than I
No, it's
expected to.
okay.
But there's a lot to talk about, all of this. Because again,
Of
this season, I
course.
didn't think there was going to be a lot to talk about during an episode recapping the season. There's a lot to talk about.
No, just the reunion in itself was amazing.
Exactly. So good. How often do you release new episodes of Bravo All Black? Do your plugs before we sign off.
Yeah, my iPad is about to die, but
Okay. Okay.
okay. Follow me at Bravo Wild Black, releasing 2 times a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays. And Gibson, thank you so much for having me. I love you so much, and you're going to be on my podcast very soon.
I'd love to be back, and I love you too. And then, again, this is a long time coming. I'm so glad that we're in the Hurrdat family together, and we'll do this again
Yep.
soon. We really will. All right.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much, Kaya.
Bye.
I want to gab.